The story today is The Hand-Me-Down Doll by Steven Kroll. The pictures are by Evaline Ness. It says, "For Marjorie, a doll." There was once a nasty little girl called Glenda. The more she had, the more she wanted. The more she asked for, the more she got. Finally, on her 6th birthday, her parents bought Glenda the most beautiful doll they could find. But Glenda wasn't interested. She put the doll on a shelf and went on playing with her boat and her games, her rabbits and her fish, her makeup and her jewelry. When her mother asked what she was going to name her new doll, Glenda said, "Oh, nothing." "Nothing," said Glenda's mother. Glenda shrugged. For a long time, the doll sat on a shelf. No one held her or cuddled her. She got very lonely, and she wanted a name. One day, Glenda's mother discovered the doll covered in dust. "Glenda," she said, "why don't you play with this beautiful doll?" "You can give her away if you like," said Glenda. "I don't want her." That afternoon, Farmer John came by delivering eggs. As he was leaving, Glenda's mother handed him the doll. "What's this for?" said John. "You know Sal and I don't have children." "Glenda doesn't want her," said her mother. "Poor thing," said John, and he took the doll home in his wagon. She really is pretty. But Farmer John and his wife Sal didn't have much time for a doll. John was busy farming, Sal was busy cooking and gardening. They put the doll on a chair in the living room and left her alone. The doll looked out the window at the silent fields. She looked around the quiet room. She got even lonelier than before, and still she didn't have a name. In the fall, when it was time for the county fair, John and Sal took the doll along to decorate their vegetable booth. The doll liked that. People noticed her and called her beautiful again. Then a big, gruff-looking woman came by and shoved $5 in John's hand. The doll was lifted up and carried away. The woman carried her down a midway of rides and games of chance. She stuck the doll in the middle of the ring toss game beside some stuffed dogs and tigers. Then she announced, "Step right up, everybody. 2 rings over any bottle and you win this beautiful doll." The doll shuddered. If she was so beautiful, how could anyone gamble her away? Would no one take her home and love her? Poor little doll. Hours passed. A man in a uniform was tossing the rings. He aimed and missed. He tried again. A ring wobbled around the neck of a bottle and stayed. With 1 ring left, he threw and he won. "I'll take the doll," he said. "I'll give it to my niece." The man left the fair with the doll under his arm. He walked to a shiny limousine, but he didn't step inside. He held open the door, and an elegant couple swept up and got in. Then he put the doll on the driver's seat and drove away. The doll tried to imagine her new home. But when the elegant couple had been dropped off, the chauffeur drove to a nearby cafe. Inside, it was dark and noisy. The chauffeur greeted the manager with a shout, and soon he was greeting others with shouts and slaps on the back. The doll thought he might show her off to the people, but he didn't. He put her in a corner and left her there. When the lights were turned up at closing time, Harry the waiter discovered the doll. "Hey, Nell," he said to the cook, "have you seen this incredible doll?" "Yes," said Nell, "I just can't remember who brought her in." "Well, what are we going to do with her?" "Keep me," the doll said to herself. "Keep me and love me and give me a name." "Know anyone with kids?" said Nell. "Nah," said Harry. "I'd better leave her outside. Maybe someone will come along and want her." This poor doll. No sooner was the doll outside than a small boy appeared from around the corner. His face was dirty, his shirt was torn. He picked up the doll and carried her off. She was almost as big as he was, but he carried her gently and easily. Then he set her down on the pavement. The doll looked around at the battered houses. They were in the poorest part of town. A little girl was coming from the other direction. The boy jumped out in front of her. "Want to buy a doll?" he whispered. "Cheap." The doll's heart sank, but she looked up and there was a smiling, friendly face. "That's such a beautiful doll," the little girl said. "She's yours for a nickel," said the boy. The girl searched in her pockets. She came up with 1 nickel. "It's my allowance for the whole month," she said, "but I don't care. Here." The boy took the money and ran off. Aw, look at that. The little girl carried the doll home to her parents' tiny, neat house. She took her upstairs to her room and sat her on the bed. The room was nearly bare. "I don't have very much," she said, "but having you is everything." She hugged the doll tight. "My name is Molly," she said, "and your name is Polly." Polly closed her eyes and smiled. At last she was loved, and at last she had a name. Look, there she is reading the book. The Hand-Me-Down Doll by Steven Kroll, illustrated by Evaline Ness.